Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to February session of QB Talks. I am Cheska Cordero from Insightful Accountant. And now, before we actually start, I'd like to go ahead and ask our question of the day, just as everyone's kind of filing in as you would a normal webinar. Well, not webinar, a seminar, like if you were to come in and kind of sit down. Okay, while you're settling down in front of your computers, your phones or tablets, what have you, I'm not one to judge where you watch your webinars, but okay. Alicia, I've actually been getting back into reading for fun, for leisure, and I breeze by a book really fast. Takes me a day if it's like a 300-page book. So I want a few books or authors in my kind of pending to read list. So would you recommend if you had a recommendation of an author or a book?
Mhm. Well, three come to mind for me. So the
Okay.
first one is nonfiction it's called The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. And
Okay.
it's a very easy read, four
Writing
concepts
that
that
down.
really help transform your life. So
Hmm.
that's a must read. We actually give it to all of our employees.
Oh,
The
wow.
second one is Any Fiction by Christopher Golden, who's a horror writer. I'm actually a little biased. He was my boyfriend in college. We actually met in a
Oh,
writing
okay.
seminar, but he is now a New York Times bestselling author. So Christopher Golden. And then the third one, you say that you can speed read through a book in one day. I challenge
Hmm.
you to, I want to know how long it takes you to read Moby Dick, because it took me over a year
Oh, okay.
reading it every night before bed.
Really?
So I want to know how long it takes you to get through
Well, I
Moby.
read it in high school, and just because I had subjects and other stuff, it
Hmm.
took me, I would say, a week.
Wow.
Yeah, it took me a week, like
Wow.
the working days in a week. Because I really read things fast. I don't know. Sometimes it's a curse. Like I make me read the whole Harry Potter series again, and I just a month. I'm done.
Wow. I mean, I thought I was a fast reader, but wow,
Yeah.
that's impressive.
Well, thanks. It's a blessing and a curse, but again, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to February's QB Talks. Again, I'm Cheska Cordero from Insightful Accountant, and this QB Talks, it's time for QuickBooks Time. Sorry, can't talk today. With our newest host, Alicia Katz Pollock. Now, I'll hand this off to Alicia in just a little bit after I cover a few of the housekeeping items. Now, this is actually this webinar is sorry. CPE is being offered for this session, and you have to be in the session for at least 50 minutes. You have to answer at least of the three of the polling questions. Now, if you have any questions, please enter them in the Q&A panel and be specific. Don't just say, what did you mean? You got to say, hey, Alicia, what did you mean by you want to have Cheska read Moby Dick again? Mainly because she might not get to your question right after you put it in there. Now, we will be sending you a copy of the slide deck and the link to the recording after the webinar, and it is also going to be up on our YouTube page within about 24 hours. So if you want to go check that out over there with many other webinars that we've done in the past that might be of interest to you. Now, I'll be putting that link to our YouTube channel into our chat as well, and do not forget that we have many webinars for you every month, whether you're interested in practice management, marketing, everything tax, or all things QuickBooks. Insightful Accountants got something for you. And you can check out all of our webinars that are available to you over on the educational webinars page on our site. I'll also be putting that link into our chat. And if you haven't subscribed to our newsletter, join the tens of thousands of accounting professionals who rely on Insightful Accountant to keep them up to date on news and updates impacting today's accounting professional. I will be rolling out all those links and the copy of the slide deck throughout the webinar in case you might have missed it. So watch out for that as well in the chat. And also, please answer the post-webinar survey that will pop up after the webinar so that we over at Insightful Accountant can further improve our webinars and really give you guys what you want. Okay. All right, everyone. Let's give a warm welcome to our new host, Alicia Katz Pollock. Welcome, Alicia, and thanks for being here.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. It's really an honor. I feel like I'm standing on the shoulders of giants with Liz Scott's been the host forever, Sandy Leba before them, and I'm really happy and honored to be here. So let me go ahead and share my screen and we will get this going. All right, so hopefully everybody can see my title slide. So welcome to the February QB Talks, and it is time for QuickBooks Time. I want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Avid Exchange at avidexchange.com. Be careful when you're typing in the URL. That's not EXCHANG. They've shortened it up right there. And Avid Exchange is an accounts payable portal, and it really makes it easier than when you need approvals or you have complex workflows with your billing. You should absolutely check out Avid Exchange as a competitor to some of the other big ones that I'm not going to name, but it's a great app, and I definitely recommend it. We also are sponsored by a brand new, I'll wait for that poll to go by. So do you want to hear from an Avid Exchange? You can schedule a demo with them and you actually get a $50 gift card for doing it. So they pay you for your time, or they can send you information. Or if you're not interested, just say, I am here just to learn. So I'll give you a minute to go and respond to that poll question so you can get your CPE. I would definitely take them up on the demo so that you can see what it is, whether it's right for you and whether it's right for your clients. Oops, there we go. There's the Avid Exchange slide. All right, so everybody go ahead and get that poll answered, and then we will keep going. Okay, so if you hear my voice, this is the time for the poll. We have to wait until we get enough responses so that we everybody can get their CPE credit for being here. So definitely check out Avid Exchange. Do the demo with them, or just go check out their website so that you can really take control of your AP process, get approvals, get authorizations, keep tabs on your bills. There's a lot of really great things to know. Okay, are we ready to go, Jessica? Excellent. Okay, good. Now, there's also another sponsor of QB Talks, and I would like to introduce you to Insightful Accountant's brand new learning management system. And it's actually powered by RoyalWise. So if you go to IA for Insightful Accountant.matrixlms.com, what this is, let me go ahead and show it to you. This is just the beginning. We're only getting it started, but Insightful Accountant has decided to do a custom branded portal powered by RoyalWise training, so classes that I have taught. And when you go to the catalog, you can see here there's Microsoft Office training and QuickBooks training, and there's video courses and live webinars. But when you go into the video courses, there are over 40 different classes here, all about QuickBooks Online. And so again, the address is ia.matrixlms.com. There is even the class that we're about to do with QuickBooks Time. The tour that I'm going to give you is just an excerpt of my full QB Time class. And so if you like what you hear about QB Time and you want to go get all the rest of the information, that's where you can find that course. Okay. So let's go ahead and get started. So for those of you who haven't met me before, my name is Alicia Katz-Pollock and my company is royalwise.com. I am the co-host of the unofficial QuickBooks Accountants podcast with Hector Garcia. So you can go ahead and search for that in your favorite podcasting app. In 2023, I was nominated for the, not nominated, I was one of the top 50 women in accounting from Ignition. And in 2021, I was a top 10 pro advisor from Insightful Accountant. I'm a member of the Intuit Trainer Writer Network. And what I do all day long is help people set up their QuickBooks, train them on QuickBooks, and troubleshoot what they're doing wrong. And so I live and breathe QuickBooks all day long, every day. And that's why I started doing all these QuickBooks trainings and making the portal. All right, but that's enough about me. Let's go in and get to the good stuff. So we are going to talk about QuickBooks Time. And here's the agenda of the different things that we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about choosing a subscription, setting it up, adding your employees and your contractors, how to actually track the time, how you can approve the time, how it integrates with QBO Portal and other payroll processors, and even some of the scheduling. So we'll also take a quick look at the Classic portal. So these are all the things that we're going to talk about. But like I said, this is just an excerpt of my full hour and a half class. So I'm going to be kind of like glossing over some of it and just showing you these things are here, not necessarily going into the full depth of how to do everything. But there's so much exciting stuff happening with the tools that I really wanted to share it with you. So again, if you want to take the full QB Time class, I know this is a really super long URL, but that's where you can go to find the full class. And maybe you want to know more about QBO Payroll. I have a full class on QuickBooks Online Payroll as well. Okay. With QuickBooks Time, the very first thing that we have to talk about is how do you subscribe to it? Question just came in, are we covering QuickBooks Time for desktop today? We're really just focusing on the QuickBooks Online new integration, because that's actually what's really special about this is let's actually kind of go back and do a little bit of history with this. QuickBooks Time originally was T-Sheets back in the day. So it was a third-party app that you went to tsheets.com and then it integrated with your QuickBooks Desktop or your QuickBooks Online. Then Intuit bought T-Sheets and they started integrating it really fully into the two programs. And most recently, they've actually added it into the QBO portal interface. So when you're in your QuickBooks Online and you do all of the time tools, you're now using QuickBooks Time, which was T-Sheets. And it looks a lot better, it acts a lot better, but there are still some things that you have to go to the classic site still to do. If you are a QuickBooks Desktop Time user, then the parts that I show you about the original classic interface are still relevant, but I'm really going to be showing you how it integrates in QBO. All right, so the very first thing is just how do you even get registered or set up with QB Time in the first place? And QuickBooks Time either comes with your QBO Payroll or you can use it as a standalone application. So you see here that there's two sections on my screen. The two on the left are if you do it standalone, meaning you're not using QuickBooks Online. Either you're using desktop or maybe you're not even using QuickBooks at all, although I know all of you are. But there is a standalone version, so somebody who wants to do time tracking can still do the time tracking. If you are using QuickBooks Online Payroll, then it comes with either the premium or the elite version. So if you're using Payroll Core, you don't get access to QuickBooks Time, but it's a really good reason to go with premium or elite. So both of those are available to you. There's a question, does QuickBooks Time come with QBOA account like T-Sheets did? It does, because your QuickBooks Online for Accountants portal comes with free elite payroll, so you actually do get QuickBooks Time for your own use. So it's a really great opportunity to get to know it. Okay, so again, if you are using QuickBooks Online Payroll, if you go with the premium version, it has time. And if you use elite, then what it changes about QuickBooks Time when you're at the elite level is you have geofencing, which is your employees can't clock in unless they're actually on the job site, and also project management, so managing your time for projects. So if you need either of those two, then going to QuickBooks Payroll Elite is going to give you those enhanced features with QuickBooks Time. But if you are using payroll from any other source, if you're on Paychex or ADP or any of those, you can still use QuickBooks Time to integrate with them without payroll. So that's the difference between the left and the right on your screen. Okay. And we're going to do another poll. So go ahead, Cheska, and go ahead and put up the next poll. Okay, so here's a question. Let's see if you were listening. QB Time is available either A, as part of QBO Payroll, B, as a standalone subscription, C, at tsheets.com, or A and B. So go ahead and pick those. Now, actually, this is a little bit of a tricky question. And if you just remember what I was showing you on the left and the right-hand side of the screen, you should be able to get this one right. The tsheets.com part of it is a little tricky because the original Classic Portal is actually still at the URL for tsheets.com, but you can't just go to tsheets.com and sign up for it. That's only just the remainder of the interface. Intuit has been working on taking everything in the tsheets.com interface and moving it into QBO, but there are still things that you still do have to do at the original website. So slowly but surely, they'll be migrating the whole thing over. And what they've done so far just looks fantastic. So go ahead and answer that poll, and then I will get up and running and we will start showing it off. Okay. So let's close the poll in. Well, I don't. Jessica's in charge of it. I can't tell. I was gonna. So I'm gonna do a countdown. Ready? 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Okay. And the correct answer was A and B. That you can get it standalone. You can get it through payroll. All right, so let's talk about setting up time tracking. Now, Intuit just made an announcement that now when you go to time in the left navigation of QBO and you go to the interview tab, they have just released the step-by-step ability to set up your QuickBooks Time. And I'm really glad that they did. When I'm actually in a sample file right here. The reason why I'm glad that they just came out with this setup tasks checklist is because the tabs across the top with the different parts of QuickBooks Time are here kind of by importance or how frequently you're going to use them, but you actually have to go set things up under assignments first and then go do some of the other things. So it was a little tricky for people to figure out how to set it up because you had to go to different places for different parts of it. So now by going to the overview, it will now walk you through the whole setup process in order. And then you have the shortcuts on the right-hand side, which are just like you would see in QBO Payroll with different shortcuts for the different tasks that you want to do, so you can jump straight to them. Okay. So I actually realized I started getting into the preferences and all of that, but I actually want to back up a second and talk about the different ways that people can add time. Your employees, if you're tracking time for employees, you can also track time for contractors. And when you invite them, they can log in to QBO just to do their timesheets, even if they don't have any other QBO access. Or what it also does is there's an app called Workforce, and it will invite them to the app. And what's nice about that is that your employees can open up the app and clock in and clock out right from their phones, so they can be in charge of their own time cards. There's also the option of tracking your time using a kiosk, which is an iPad that your employees show up on site and then they tap in on the iPad. And what's cool about that is it actually takes a picture of you, and so you can see the employee's face. So you can't have one employee clocking in for another one, which is really nice. So the flexibility is just fantastic. Now, when you are setting it up, one of the first things that you need to do are a lot of your different preferences. And so I'm going to come in here to assignments. Come on, here we go. And in assignments, this is one of the places where you control the user experience for what all the employees actually see when they log in. That by default, if you don't set anything up, all of your employees are going to see all of your customers and all of the services that you provide. And that can get really overwhelming depending on your company. So you do have the ability to assign your employees different parts of the software. And I'm going to say more about that. But the first button that I want to just point out to you is Break Preferences. when I click on break preferences, you have the ability to create different types of breaks. And again, shout outs for how flexible this is. You can make different kinds of breaks. You can make different length of time. You can make it in minutes or in hours, or maybe not even a set length. You can make breaks paid or unpaid. You can have it automatically put in a break every 4 hours of their shift, or not. You can have them actually have to clock in and clock out on their breaks. So with all of the different flexibility, this just really shows you how you can control as much as possible. So you can even have it down here at the bottom, notify app users 5 minutes before the break ends. So this is just a really strong example of the amount of thought that goes into all of the compliance that you have to do, not just your company policies, but your state laws as well. Now I'm going to just cancel this one. And so this one is just set up to be an automatic 15-minute break that's assigned as a paid break every 4 hours. All right, I'm going to go ahead and close that. And let's come back to our PowerPoint right there. And so here's a picture of some of the different settings on it. Okay, the next thing that we need to do is add your employees and your contractors. And I want to just emphasize that not only can you use this with your employees, but you can have your contractors, whenever they're doing work for your company, use your time tracking system. That way you can make their time billable to your clients. You can do your job costing for how much time and labor actually went into different jobs. It's pretty amazing. Okay, so when you are inviting your new team member, this is how easy it is. If they are already in your system as a contractor or as an employee, it's as simple as just sending them an invitation where you put in their name and their email address. And if they're brand new and they're not in the system at all, it will also ask you about their hire date and use the workforce employee self setup. And what that is it's part of QuickBooks Online Payroll that you can have your employees do all of their own self-management through their portal. So they can put in their name and their address and all of their W-4 withholdings, all of their personal information, which is great because let's say they move or they have a baby and they want to change those settings, they can do it themselves from inside Workforce. So if they are already in the system, you won't see the bottom half of this with the hire date and the employee self-setup. But if they are not already in your system, then it will do the whole thing all in one shot. And so where I am is in the, let's actually go back to the overview right here, and it says add team. So when I click on add team, it gives me the option of an employee or a contractor. And then this is how you get that, that set up for them. And then, so contractor pretty much works the same way. What the contractor does is it sends you over to the whole contractors section of your expenses. And if you haven't checked out expenses and contractors, I know this is a whole sidebar, but the contractor center allows you to manage all of your 1099 workers all in one place, including paying them. And if you're using QBO Payroll, you can count your contractors as employees and also pay them through your payroll interface. So some things that some people don't even know are there. Okay. Looking over at questions. If people, when you want to ask questions, if you could put it over in the Q&A pane, that will help me out. Beth is saying, I cannot seem to take time and create a bill for the contractor like you can in desktop. You can. So I'll bring that up as we can, as I come to it. Okay. All right, so let me go back to, let's see, I did the employees. Okay. Now, assigning customers and services. This is that part that I was talking about where you don't necessarily want all of your employees to see every customer job and every service. So what you get to do is on the assignments tab, uh, is you can really micromanage all of the employees, all of the customers, and all of the different settings. So let me go over and look at that. So I'm going to head back over to time, and you can see here that all of the options fly out. I'll go click on assignments, and it takes us back into the interface where we were before. And wait for it to come up. Okay. All right, so there's the assignments button right here where if I click add, then it adds a brand new customer. And I have some companies that this is actually where they go to add new customers and jobs because their whole workflow is field services and they send their employees out into the field. And they're using Corrigo as a third-party app for the field service management, and they have discovered that if people go over and start doing things in Corrigo, but they haven't done it in QuickBooks first, then their integrations break. So their particular workflow is they actually add their customers through QuickBooks Time and the project and all of that first. But of course, you don't have to do that. You can just open up any one of your clients and work with them from here. So let's say that we've got a client here. Let me go ahead and pick, I'll pick myself, one of my companies. And what I do here is I click on the pencil, and then it allows me to edit that customer. And by default, it's assigned to all team members. But if I only want some employees to see it, I'll uncheck that box, and now I have an option to edit it. Now I can assign that client to only certain people. So only me and Jean-Luc can work on that customer. And so then I'll hit the back button. And so now the only people who are going to see at least the yin yang graphic design in their options when they go to do their timesheets are myself and Jean-Luc. Nobody else will even have them as an option. If there is a specific location, you can put in the address. So I'll put in my office address. And then what that does is it pulls it up on the map. And so you can see where it is. If you're using QuickBooks Time, or I'm sorry, QuickBooks Payroll Elite, the highest level of it, then you can turn on geofencing. And what that means, let me go ahead and zoom in, is that they have to be within this radius for them to even clock in. So right now, if they were a couple blocks away arriving on site, they would be able to clock in. But if you keep the radius really tight, they have to be within 100 meters of the site before they can actually clock in. So that is pretty cool. There's also another tab right here for custom fields. And in the custom fields, this is where you decide what they can punch in on that time. So there's tasks. The tasks are actually, I don't think I have any tasks in this QuickBooks, but that's the tasks up here on the left-hand side. Let me actually put my spotlighter up. Give me one sec. Mouse. There we go. So the tasks are related to the tasks here in QuickBooks Online Advanced. So I'm going to turn that off because I'm not using those at all. The service item, you can actually specify which services can be applied to that particular job. So instead of having your big list of all of your services, you can say, all right, I only want you to be able to pick consulting. And then I can put that assigned item on there. Or maybe I want to assign mileage, and so I can move that over. So these are the only two services that can be assigned to this time card for this client. So I'll save that. You also have the option of turning on classes. And you can, again, leave on either all classes, or you can specify the specific ones that you want them to be able to choose. I'm going to go ahead and leave them all on so that you can see it in action. And then the same with locations. Now they call locations departments here, but it's exactly the same as the locations. You have the option of assigning time cards to locations, either all of them or pick the one that you want. Now I have billable set on as a default. That's actually in the classic side of the settings. Not all of the settings are here. What that means is that there's a billable rate for each of the employees, and that's how much you're passing it on to for the customers to pay. And so this right now is set as a default. Okay, I want to actually, I see some questions coming in, so let me see if they're relevant to specifically this. Keith asks, can you set up contractors so you can't pay them unless a W-9 is on file? That would be nice, wouldn't it? Go ahead and put that one in feedback, but no, there's no restriction on that because a lot of the time you wouldn't be able to pay people at all. So that does not exist. Okay. Is there a global button to deselect all customers in order to get a clean start? That is a great question. Let's go back over to the team members. Actually, yes, if you, I'm going to come out of this customer and save this and then go back again. There is let me make sure I'm in the right one. One sec, come back. All right, we're frozen right there. There is, when you're in the T-sheets option, you can go in and you can take a client and assign it to everybody all at once. So slightly different interface, but you can do that. Are the custom fields available through the API for using external reporting and analytics? It's as far as I know, it's just the 3 custom fields in the API in advance that are available. And as you're saying, Angela, I'm going to verify that it is just at the header level. Custom fields are not available on the line item level as of now. Okay. And somebody else asks if you want to do a flat billing rate, not based on time, but you want to track time. Yeah, you just wouldn't use the billable rate on the time cards. There's other ways of approaching it. Okay, so that is doing the assignments on from the customer basis. Now you can also go to time team. I'm not exactly sure whose language that is, why it says time team or not team time, but this is kind of doing the same thing from the team level. And so from here, you can add team members. You can send out invitations to workforce. You can also see who is working. This will actually show you all your employees on the clock all over the map, which is pretty nice. And then I'm going to get into the scheduling actually in a little bit. But you can, oh, you can't from here. Never mind. Okay. So this is the person interface, your team interface. Okay, and again, I'm just kind of showing the basics of all of this. I go into more detail in the QB Time class in the IA portal. Okay, so now let's talk about timesheets and actually keeping the time. There are a number of different ways that you can add time into, add your time cards. QuickBooks Time has a single time entry. It has a weekly time entry. And it also, again, has the cell phone interface, which I'll talk about in a minute. So let's go take a look at those 2 timesheets. So where we go for that is the tab right here for time entries is one of the places where you can do it. And you can filter you can filter it in different ways from here and see only employees, or you can see all workers. But over on the right-hand side is where you add time, and then you have single time entry, weekly time entry, and the time clock. The time clock is literally a start and stop where you start it and you say that, okay, I'm going to clock in and I'm going to work on all port additions. So I'll go ahead and clock in. And my billable rate for this work that I'm doing is, let's say 75 an hour. And if you have any notes, you can put it on there. And now this is actually keeping time right now. So I'm going to leave this up and running and we'll stop it a little bit later on. So I'm going to go ahead and close that interface, but it's still keeping time. The next way is a weekly time entry. And what's nice about this is right now it's showing people that I've already entered in, but if I do some more work for another customer, I can pick that other customer and then say, all right, I did, um, 1 hour on Monday and 5 hours on Friday. Now, if I have the client set up for classes and services and all of the other things that you can select, you would actually see it all right down here. So when you click on one of the boxes, you can pick the billable rate, the class, the location, and everything for every single one of these boxes. And then if you're doing multiple things for multiple clients, I would put ask in a second time and then change the service or change the class. So there's a lot of flexibility here when you're using this particular timesheet. So I'll go ahead and I will save that time entry. Okay, then the next thing that it does is the single time entry. And so this is just if you have one particular client that you're working on, you can, log what you're doing right now, and then you switch gears and go to a different client. You can log that one in and out. So that is, so again, you have a lot of flexibility. Now, one thing I want to point out, and this is a PEBCAC, it's the word that I use for problem exists between chair and keyboard, meaning things that people don't do right. You have a different time card system up here, single time activity and weekly timesheets up under the plus new button. These do not integrate right now with QuickBooks Time. These integrate with the Project Center. So if you're using the Project Center and you're keeping time there, this timesheet will do the job costing on that time. But this timesheet, as of this moment, does not pull over into payroll, the same as the QuickBooks Time timesheets, and vice versa. The QuickBooks Time timesheets over here don't integrate with the job costing for the labor in the projects. They are working on it. They do not want to have two separate time systems, but they haven't gotten to that point in their migration where they're merging the two of those. But I know for a fact it is on their roadmap and they are working on that. Okay. And the thing about the billable rate is the fact that you're seeing it right now. That's just because that setting happens to be turned on. You don't have to have your employees put in their billable rates. You can have all of that happening on the back end as an administrator. It just happens to be the toggle that's turned on right now in this in this sample file. Okay. So time entries, we had that time clock going, and so you can see here that it's still counting in my time clock. And so I'm going to go ahead and clock out on that so that you get to see that time being entered as well. Okay, so that is how to clock in and out through the time entries. There is also the ability, like I said, to use the Workforce app on your phone. So the employee can log in and then they pick from the customers, whether it's all of them or just the ones that you've assigned to them. And then if you have the options turned on, they can make their time billable or not, meaning billable time is being passed on to an invoice. You can set the classes, you can set the service items, you can set the locations. Now, the service items, by the way, when you are doing some of the job costing tools using this, I have been on projects where they were forced to use service items to get the different billable rates for the different employees. Again, I can't really go into what is Alicia talking about when she says that, but just know that if you have multiple billable rates for different employees, where if the employee is working for this client, it's this rate, and if they're working for this client, they've got a different billable rate, then you actually need to integrate service items as some of their choices so that you can get the right costing for the job costing for the employee billing and the invoicing. So just a little tickler to put in the back of your head around that. Okay. So, but being able to log in Workforce is just really super helpful and convenient for the employees. Okay. Okay, so Laurie's clarifying a client would have to track time in both time tracking systems in order to get both the payroll and the projects. Unfortunately, at this moment, yes, you would have to have the time cards in both places. I'm hoping they get that solved pretty quickly. I have a major client with 45 employees who was faced with that, and what they actually decided to do was put all their employees on salary so that they could just use the project tracking center for the invoicing, but they didn't have to worry about entering it in for payroll also. So that was their solution to it, and their employees are actually pretty stoked about it. Okay. Okay, so let's keep going. Okay, now the week has gone by, or the 2-week period, or the month, and now you need to review all of the entries for accuracy, and so that you can either invoice your clients or run payroll, or both. And so let's look at reviewing and editing. All of this happens in the time entries tab. And so let's head over and take a look. So for time entries, I'm going to put it to all workers and see who pops up here. You can specify a date range. I'm going to go ahead and put in this whole month because we've got me and Jean-Luc working. And so when I look at the time that's on here, I can click on it and now it shows me all of their time entries. So Jean-Luc just has some sick time put in because again, sample file, not real data. Here's my time card. And so this now shows you all of that stuff that you saw me add in that weekly timesheet is all right here. So I can see the hours worked, I can see the time elapsed, I can see what customer. If there were details and notes, I would see that as well. And the status is unapproved, so it's not ready for payroll yet. If I want to manipulate them, I have a drop-down arrow here that I can edit it, I can view the history of it, and I can delete it. The history will even show you if you've had managers putting in employee time. Now I want to go in and edit it, which now allows me to put in a billable rate if I need to. I can even put in, if there's mileage attached, the Workforce app allows your employees to put in their mileage for the jobs. So this can allow me to go in and edit that time card. Then when I am all done, I can go back. I'm going to go back to the root level and no, this is not letting me approve the time because I've got this little alert here that it's not set up as an employee, so it's giving me a little, let me see if I can do this real fast. Great. Okay, I can't actually show you. Sigh. All right, I'm going to talk about sick time in a minute. Let me actually go give Jean-Luc his own time so that we have some time for him in here. So I'm going to add a time entry for Mr. Jean-Luc Picard, and we're going to give him today instead of, I'm just going to do a duration and give him 8 hours of time as of yesterday. And I'm not going to assign it to a client. Okay, So now he's got some time in here. So again, I can look at it. I can also now approve it. Once I approve the time, it's ready to be pulled into payroll and locked, that nobody can make changes to a time card that's been locked. If you do need to make a change, you can just unlock it and then go in and make the changes. So I'll go ahead and I will lock his time. Okay. Yes, it makes it easy for me to approve. Normally, I would go ahead and give it a smile and give some notes, but we're in a webinar. Okay. So that's the time entries. And when you're approving time for payroll, when you have more time involved, then you can actually, this is a little bit more about what it looks like when it's really up and running in a real file. You can also toggle whether it's billable or not. You can get a lot more information about it. Okay. And then once you've done all of this and it's time to run payroll, then when you start doing the payroll run, it will pull all of that time into the payroll automatically. And so when you click run, I'm not sure if this is going to work in this. No, it's not going to work um, in this field. Actually, it might. Okay, yeah, because these aren't real employees and real setup, I can't actually demonstrate it. But just trust me, you would come to this screen, all of the approved time and even sick leave would all show up in this screen ready to run payroll. So it's all completely seamless. Okay, now another feature that you have in QuickBooks Time is scheduling. And now, personally, I find this a little awkward. You can make a schedule and make it spread out over time, but if you need to change it, you actually have to change it one block at a time. So this is helpful for being able to see who is on schedule and for people to be able to log in, your employees on their phone app to see if they are being scheduled, but it's really not a substitute at the moment for real scheduling software like uh, um, a Service Mate or some of those other deployment software. So you're still going to need to rely on the other scheduling software that you're using, but sometimes it's handy to be able to see it through this scheduler. I think this is kind of like version 1.0. Okay. All right, so PTO and time off entries. So your employees can actually, if you want them to, you have the option of letting them put in their own time off in their Workforce app or by logging in, or you can stay in charge of the time off entries. But generally, I like them to be able to make the request and then I approve that request. So time off happens under the, you guessed it, time off tab. And there's a filter right here for being able to see see them on the list by status. When I want to add the time off, I can pick one employee or multiple employees. I do notice, by the way, that there is a way of making groups of employees, but that's not currently in the QBO interface. That can only be done from the classic interface. But I'll go ahead and I'll book myself for some sick leave today. Of course, I don't have it set up. Let's try it again. Add time off instead of me. Let's go to Jean-Luc and continue. And then whatever your sick leave codes are that you've done inside your payroll or inside the QuickBooks Time settings, if you're using standalone, they'll all be available, including what their current balance is. And so let's say he was out on I guess we'll just go with this one. So he's out today and you can put in notes. You can also do more than one day. And when you go ahead and save it, though, I locked the pay period. Remember when I was demonstrating it? So that's why it's not letting me actually go in and make this change. And okay, so I'm going to give him, he's putting in for sick leave on March 4th. He's not going to be there. So I can save that. And so now I've got sick leave entered for a future date. And so that's all that there is to it, to putting in the sick leave. And again, this will flow through to payroll, and the sick policy, vacation policy, holiday policies are all defined by your payroll setup. Okay, now let's look at time reports. There's a couple different time reports that you can run. They are right here under time reports. And so I'm just going to show you these quickly. There's a payroll report, and let's go to this week. And so here you can now see graphically what people's time were. You can click on it, and it even gives you a graph and a list of everything that they did and who they worked with. And you can edit these by using the icons on the left-hand side, or delete entries if you need to. So it's a fully interactive report that you can also print, download, and open up as a PDF. There's also an itemized total time report. And let me go ahead and change this to, let me go back a month. Okay, this is graphical. Look at this. So here you can see how much time went to all of your different customers. If you are using groups, you can see the time by employee group. You can actually see time by team member and by employee. You can look at the time by the different billable rates inside your company, and also by the service items that are used. So I love this dashboard, and it is interactive, so that when you click on it, it should take you, I'm sorry, restate that. So there's also a filter that if you want to see just one of the items, you can click on it and it will filter out to just that item. So there you go. So that's some of the reports. You can also, there's buttons to download it, view the job costing by team member, and these are all actually being pulled over from the T-Sheets Classic interface in a frame. So it's kind of like right now the best of both worlds. So once you start playing with all of the different features, you can include the classes and departments and service items. You can calculate group by job code, grand totals. There's all kinds of things that you can run. And so then you can export your time and really manipulate your time through these reports. Okay. Now I know there's a lot of questions coming in, but like I said, there's so much that I need to talk about. So let's see, is there anything else here that I need to specifically address? Okay. So now time importing into payroll. I already showed you the payroll report, and I already showed you how when you start doing a payroll run, it will pre-populate the time. Okay, now I do need to address classic mode because there are a lot of things that you still can't do from the new interface. You still have to do them from inside time. So you've probably noticed in the upper left, the upper right corner of most of the screens, there's a Go to Classic QuickBooks Time link, and that opens up a different tab, and that takes you to the traditional old school tsheets.intuit.com interface. And then here is where you can really, really dial in all of your time settings. So you do still have to come in here to do some of the work. There's settings up under QuickBooks Payroll and the preferences right here. There's an import feature which will freshen the link between the timesheets and the rest of your QuickBooks and your payroll if you're finding a discrepancy. This little import button is pretty important. There is, here you can manage the schedule a little bit easier. You can look at the time clock and see who's working. You can get a whole list of all your employees and who is all working all at one time. You can, in the time off section, you can go in and work with the time off and change your accruals and balances and things like that. But especially important is working with your team right here. This is where you can create groups where you can apply policies to whole sets of employees, like, maybe your clerics versus your directors could have, or managers might have different parameters. So you can set people up as groups and then apply the settings to them as groups. There is also company settings over here. So this is, your own billing, the time options and how you want the time entry and what people can and can't do inside their workforce app. It's really, really extensive. And so I do recommend that you come in. Also, don't miss the feature add-ons down at the bottom. Here's where you can manage the kiosk or your custom fields. Remember when I had not all of these turned on? We want to actually probably show classes for all the customers, but I was kind of showing off the feature, so I limited it. But this is now where you can really hone in the whole entire experience. Okay. So what I want to do is I want to spend a few minutes answering some of the questions. Somebody did ask, well, where do you go to get the full class that you teach about this? So there's this big, long, obnoxious link right now. We'll work on getting QR codes and short links, but for the moment, this is what we've got. But if you at least go over to ia.matrixlms.com, you'll be able to find the QuickBooks Time course and the payroll course. All right, I'm going to head over here and go take a look at the questions and which ones I can actually answer in the few minutes that we have left. Cheska, do you want to do another? I just realized I talked right over all your poll questions. Do you want to do that now or no?
Yeah,
Actually,
sure. We can
okay.
manage it.
Okay, so if you're using QBO Payroll, you need to A, set your employees up first, B, set your contractors up first, C, track your PTO separately, or D, all of the above. So before you start using QuickBooks Time, do you need to, if you are using QuickBooks Payroll, which of these things do you need to actually go ahead and set up? And I'm so sorry we didn't do this poll 20 minutes ago. Sorry about that. It's my first time. All right. My first time here with QB Talks anyway. Okay, so go ahead and everybody get that poll question in. While you're answering that, I'm going to go look at the Q&A and see which of these I can actually answer. Okay. Are the custom fields? Okay, answered that one. Okay. Adding different types of time off and different options of accrual and how to track it for employees and contractors adding their time and accrued. So you do have full control over the different types of time off, and you do have control over their balances. And in QuickBooks Online Payroll, you can really set how all of that PTO is accrued, whether it's in the beginning of the year, all at once in one block, or whether they're accruing it by paycheck or even accruing it by hour. You have complete flexibility for how the time off is calculated. Okay. Can this be used for after the fact payroll similar to desktop? Yeah, I mean, if you're just running payroll, you don't have to do any of this with the time cards. You can just type in their summary hours. This would be really the benefit of QuickBooks Time is when you want your employees to actually have some control over their time cards, and you need to do the job costing component of it. So at any point, you can just go in and run payroll. I'm not sure, I've never tried to run payroll and then go back and do the time cards. I don't know if you can. I would assume that you can, but I don't know that for sure. Okay. Nancy asks the employees and contractors entering in their billable rates. That would be the billable rate to the client, meaning that I'm doing this work and we're going to bill it to the client at this cost. So that's what that billable rate box is. A lot of the time your employees don't have that option. or that's not something you ask your employees to do, but if you do, you have that flexibility. All right, let's go ahead and close that poll. The correct answer was all of the above. Okay, and let me see what other questions I have that I can ask. Is it possible for staff to enter their time into QB Time but not import it into the payroll program? So yes, absolutely. So that's actually one of the best case scenarios is when your staff is on salary, but you still do want to see what clients they're working on and what their time burden is. You absolutely don't need to connect the two of them. You can use them as standalone trackers for sure. Okay. Somebody else asks, can you create bills for contractors for time entered? There's nowhere to put the contractor hourly rate. So, part of this depends if which time cards you're using. That the hourly rate, if you're not seeing it in the QB time, then that's where the services come into play. And so you would use the services to control the billing rate that goes on to the invoices. So it's in a way, it's kind of a workaround, but on the other hand, it makes a whole lot of sense. Okay, so there was a whole lot of information there and a whole lot of really good questions. Again, this is just like a 45-minute synopsis of a full hour-and-a-half class. If you take the course through the learning management system, there is also class discussions there, and you're welcome to go ask your questions in that course as well. So a little bit of related content for you. So, Cheska, go ahead and run our last farewell poll. And so thank you all for coming today. And again, it's an honor for me to be here for QB Talks and to be the new host. I love training people. I love answering questions. So if there's anything I can do to be of service to you, definitely let me know. Our topic for the March QB Talks is the new deferred revenue and revenue recognition tools in QBO Advanced. And I'm even hoping to have one of the developers on the call with me to answer some of these tougher questions that I may not have had to put through its paces yet. So know that that's what we're going to be talking about in the next QB Talks. So let's get our last poll done. Which of the time card formats will not work for entering time? Time entry, workforce, weekly timesheet, or all of those will work. So go ahead and let us know which one is the best way, or which one will get your time into time and into payroll. All right. So again, thank you very much. This is Alicia Katz-Pollock from RoyalWise.com. And I will see you in class.
Thanks so much, Alicia. That was amazing. That was a lot of information and we absolutely loved it. Okay, so right before we close out this webinar, remember that we have so many webinars for you every month, and you can check out all of our educational webinars on the educational webinars page on our site. And don't forget to check out our YouTube page and subscribe to our newsletter if you haven't already. And please don't forget to answer our post-webinar survey that we have so we can further improve our webinars and really give you what you guys want. And before we close it out, one last poll, I promise. And this is the CPE certificate poll. So if you really want that, please answer it. Okay, launching it now and get those answers in there. Thanks, everyone. All right. Oh, that's fast. Everybody wants a CPE certificate.
Why wouldn't you want a
Fantastic.
CPE certificate, even if you don't have to turn it
Right?
in for anybody? Actually,
Right?
there's a little secret that I learned from applying for the top 10 or for the top 100 pro advisors is they do ask you how much CPE you've
Oh,
sat in
okay.
for. So say yes to this, even if you don't need the CPE. And when you get that certificate, make sure you have a little folder either in your email or where or store the PDF somewhere so that when they ask you that question, you can actually
You just have
answer
to
it
count.
honestly instead of just like trying to count in your head.
Give you like a rough estimate.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think we have a bunch of people already who answered. I'm going to close this out in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right. Well, thanks everybody. We will see you again for the next session in March. All right, everybody, have a good day. Bye.